of the accelerated CY1 course in person. Students will come in, sit with their 4 o'clock partner. They're going to complete the evaluation titled CY1 Evaluation on Canvas. It's a survey asking them for their experience, the good, the bad, the ugly. They're also going to go to CY1 Day 8, or they're going to go to CY1 Day 8 after they finish their evaluation and reflect on the quote, "Be yourself, everyone else is already taken." Give them some time for that. You're going to notice in the lesson plan that we're really giving our students about 8 minutes to take the survey. I would say that it might even be a good idea to give them 10, so it's up to you. Pray the prayer, Fall in Love by Father Pedro Arrupe, and talk about his connection to St. Ignatius. Review the schedule, and then you're going to notice I actually got rid of the Patronus activity for scheduling purposes. And then in your boxes, in your banker's boxes, you're going to find that there are bags of Skittles. This is to, again, add more relationship opportunities for the students to get to know one another using a Skittle dyad. So depending on the color that they pick, what's an embarrassing moment if it's red, orange for goals, purple for achievements, yellow for hobbies, and green for favorites and also non-favorites or dislikes. Just have the students kind of talk about things while also eating delicious Skittles. If students are colorblind, have their partner help them out. Then we're going to go ahead and talk about, in their planners, there is a thing called a Frere model. And we're going to discuss, or they're going to discuss rather, what does it mean, this word authenticity? And most importantly, how does it connect to today's bell ringer? So they spent some time reviewing over this Oscar Wilde quote, "Be yourself, everybody else is taken." When they do this, you might want to walk them through that definition, define it. What does it mean? Characteristics. If somebody is considered authentic, what does that mean? Don't repeat the word authentic. What are some examples of things that are authentic? And what are some non-examples? What are some examples of things that are not authentic? Spend some time, about 7 minutes with their partner, and then use 7 minutes to review this. I would do this on the board, so I'd lift up the projector screen and I would even write on definition, characteristics, examples, non-examples. Once we've done that, we're actually going to connect authenticity and what it means to be authentic that they just discussed. And we're going to relate it to St. Ignatius of Loyola and his journey. So first I'm going to ask them is, what do you notice? How do you describe this image? It's sort of somber. You can tell that he's got some symbolism. You might notice that IHS that they learned from that Faith Crest presentation. You will see that there's a crest, right? A spear, so he looks like a warrior. Give them some time to think about this image. Then we want them to think about this. So he looks a little bit lighter. Still serious, but lighter. Got a halo. There's a cross. Ooh, AMDG. That's going to be important later. It looks very holy, papal almost. So give them the opportunity to provide those observations. And then we want to talk about, what do you notice about these two images juxtaposed next to each other? Many of them might have thought that these are not the same person, that these are two different people, but actually they are the same person. And what do they notice when they put them next to one another? And then we're going to talk about how we believe that this is representative of St. Ignatius's journey towards authenticity. His deepest belief was that he was a soldier when really his greatest outcome was being a saint. And so how did he get to that space? We want to show you an abridged version of his journey via this film called The Olive. Olive is a great time. Kids really like it. It's funny. It's cute. Just ask the students to really consider what evidence in this little short film indicates a journey towards authenticity. And when we've done that, we're going to go ahead and think, pair, and share. So think part is individually. So individually in their notebooks where there's note-taking page, how does St. Ignatius work towards authenticity and consider the events of his life? Then we're going to ask them to pair up and share what they were thinking, and then we'll share out. Once we've done that, we're going to reiterate something that the video says, which I think is really beautiful. As students of a Jesuit school, again, at this point they know that there's more than Loyola out there. You've been called to authenticity. You've been called to critical thinking, social responsibility, and personal development. It's not what you do, it's a state of being. So we're going back to this idea of what our desolation and consolation conversation was. It is less about Or even the St. Catherine of Genoa meditation, right? We are human beings, not human doings. So how are we modeling for ourselves and for one another what it means to be authentic and how we will develop in time? Some other ideas to think about is the video talks a lot about self-reflection and spiritual exercises, that St. Ignatius was willing to be humble and learn alongside of much younger students. Sometimes isolation allows us to be more authentic, giving us space and time from something. Finding people, finding community, building something for that community, and moving beyond the self, becoming other-centered, are all ways that St. Ignatius moved towards authenticity. So make sure that those things have been really articulated. You're going to segue by saying we're going to invite you to your most authentic selves for the next phase of this lesson, but we're going to take a bio break because isolation, taking space, rest is also a big piece of figuring out what one needs. You're going to notice that this is different from the in-person experience, which uses the Patronus activity. For the purposes of time and for depth, we got rid of that activity for the accelerated class, and I think it's going to be okay because usually during the in-person class, that's an activity that often gets eliminated from the lesson plan. Once they come back after their bio break, we're going to see that something in Latin is written down. We'll invite them to think about, well, what is a motto? And what does a motto have to do with authenticity? And hopefully we'll get students to talk about, well, it's a saying that's used to describe one's ideals, what's meaningful to them, etc. And then we're going to say, okay, now that you understand what a motto is, let's go ahead and watch a true story of a Loyola graduate named Austin Hatch. And I want you to note down, so this is where they need their notebooks, they need their planners, and they need to write down what are the mottos of Austin's life, and how did those mottos help Austin persevere / manage his cannonball moment. Now, the students will know what a cannonball moment is because I just saw St. Ignatius' cannonball moment in the Olive. So once that happens, you're going to watch this. It's a pretty touching film. It could be emotionally challenging for some students, so just make sure you take a temperature of the room and see what people are seeing. Then we're going to go ahead and think about, well, Austin Hatch had, and I think you need to review, what are some of the mottos that the students heard, what are some of the mottos that you have heard, and then how did those mottos help Austin persevere, manage his cannonball moment. So you need to discuss this. This should be something that happens within 5 to 6 minutes. And then let's go ahead and talk about what is Loyola's motto. You know, you'll notice that we have these 4 letters, AMDG. It's plastered all over the buildings. Does anybody know what this means? You got it. It's Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam. And if you remember, if I go back really quickly, well, it's not on this slide deck, but if you go back to some of the other slide decks, you do scavenger hunt of what we've been doing. Oh, like for example, the Loyola of Chicago Faith Crest had Ad Majorem Dei Gloriam on it. And what does that mean? And hopefully ask students, and it means for the greater glory of God. And we're just reminding students that as a Jesuit school, we already talked about the call, right? We are called to social responsibility. We're called to personal development and critical thinking. And as a social responsibility and radical love, as Pedro Arrupe mentioned, we are really here for a purpose. Like Father Greg Goethals always says, our deeper purpose is to get students to heaven, not to college. And so we're hoping for that same thing to be resonant for our students. And so because we've gone over what Loyola's motto is and what's the deeper motto for Jesuit schools, we also want us to think about what's your motto for Cub Year 1. So students might be like, that's a lot to think about. How do I encapsulate everything? But, you know, throughout your CY1 experience, whether you recognize it or not, we purposely put statements, credos, mottos in your daily quotes to maybe help you think about what is important to you. So go ahead and just show them, like, these are all the things that have been part of the curriculum in some way, shape, or form. And recognizing that this could be something, this wisdom could be utilized for your quote. You can see CY program's motto, right? Jesuit education aims for human excellence, men and women of conscience, competence, compassion, and commitment. So while creating the CY1 or the CY program, each phase is part of what human excellence looks like in a Jesuit context. And then you can pick your motto. This is where you would put your motto. So Mr. Brown, meaning Doug Brown, says, be the storm, the whirlwind, and the earthquake. and he can talk about poetically what that means for him. And then you can see it all together with the faith crest and their motto. And so you're going to give the students time to brainstorm, 10 minutes. Be authentic. Not what you think you want us to hear, but what is true and what you want to become. And really reflect over all the resources, the quotes, the learnings, your own faith crest, your own knowledge. Create a motto, put it all together, add it to your faith crest, and then submit it as a final draft. Once they do that in Canvas, then we're going to play the last 10 minutes of class. You should have a hard stop. Last 10 minutes of class. You're going to play this You Are Loyola video, which is beautiful. It's a song that was created by Jimmy Dune and Charlie Veal, which are a class of 19. They created this song out of their treasure, talents, and uniqueness and love for Loyola as a way to connect students, alum, back to the school. And now you are Loyola. You are part of this narrative. You're part of our crest. You're part of our crew. And you've done some of the onboarding work to get there. And once you watch that video, remind them that, you know what? This relationship doesn't stop here. We're going to see you at orientation. And also we have this thing called Cura Period, which happens once a month, where we'll meet with CUI classes just to check in and make sure that we're all on the same page and growing together. And then give them a big, shout out, see them, send them some love, and that's going to be the last day of class.